Here at the NRA annual meetings in Louisville, Kentucky, I'm very pleased to see our friend Jason Redman of the Combat Wounded Coalition with us on set. How you doing, sir?
We're good, Cam. Thanks again for having me on.
It is always a pleasure. You are always welcome. You know that, by the way.
Yes, you guys have been so gracious to us, and obviously the NRA. I mean, we're huge supporters of everything that it stands for. I mean, it's what I fought for, and I know that I speak on behalf of all wounded warriors. We believe in it. That's why we were out there.
You know, and you have been busy. Every time we talk to you, you are doing more, and I love that because you're never resting on your laurels. You've got in front of you Brotherhood Munitions. Okay, you didn't have this the last time we were talking here, Jason, so tell me about Brotherhood Munitions.
So Brotherhood Munitions was actually started by an Army veteran and a friend of his who truly believed in the sacrifice that built this country. And they came up with the idea, we want to produce a higher level of training ammunition, but we want it to have a purpose. And that purpose became connecting to the Combat Wounded Coalition and America's Mighty Warriors. So we are supporting Combat Wounded Warriors. America's Mighty Warriors is supporting families of the fallen. So 20% of the proceeds from the ammunition sales go back to support our groups. And what I like to tell people, if you're buying this ammo, you are training with a purpose.
That is fantastic. And this is American-made, right?
Absolutely. It's American-made, made right in Kansas City. They have most types of ammunition right now, and they are expanding to different types, but it's good ammo, and it comes back to support those who fought for your freedom.
That's awesome. And I understand that actually this ammo is here at the NRA annual meetings in Louisville, part of the Wall of Guns.
That's
outside.
Right. Yeah, pretty exciting. So we are the first ammo that ever has been on the Wall of Guns. And what I think it is the NRA obviously recognizing what a stance this is for an ammo company to come back and say right off the top, we're not just giving, a little bit here and there. Part of the messaging of this is 20% right off the top going to support, and that's how it made it onto the Wall of Guns, which was a huge honor, obviously, for us to see it up there and to be the first ammo line on the wall.
That is fantastic. And so let's talk about the organizations that purchasing this ammunition help support. I mentioned the Combat Wounded Coalition. You mentioned America's Mighty Warriors. These are organizations that, as you say, they have two distinct but sort of complementary missions, right?
Correct. Yeah, the big thing, I think a lot of people out there are starting to look at Americans as a whole. They want to know where their money's going. If you are contributing to a nonprofit, you want to know that your dollars are going towards that mission. So both, I know, speaking for us as the Combat Wounded Coalition, we like to say the money follows the warrior. The money follows the mission. So even in a growth year, as we're continuing to grow and expand and accomplish what we're doing, 83 cents of every dollar goes back to support our Combat Wounded Warriors. Everything from supporting our Vietnam veterans all the way to our current veterans. We just supported a wounded warrior in the Virginia Beach area. He needed a house. Through a lot of hard work, series of connections, we just got him set up with the Gary Sinise Foundation to fund his house being built there in Hampton Roads.
Wow.
So these are the things we're doing. You buy this ammo, it's going to contribute back to enabling us to continue to do these things.
And it seems to me like we are seeing, I think this is a fantastic trend in the industry, but it seems like we are seeing more of our veterans actually, get into the industry and start putting out products. They're not just endorsing products or not just, talking about it, but they're actually making these products now.
Well, I think there's so many guys, so many veterans, so many soft guys, any of them out there that they get it. They've used the ammo, they've shot the guns, they've been out there, they know what works, they know what doesn't. And sometimes it's good to go with another company. Sometimes it's better to create your own thing, especially if you have a passion or a purpose behind it. Mm-hmm. When these guys originally came to me, I was like, done. I mean, I love what it stands for. And then we have worked together we had a couple of different names in the beginning, but it made perfect sense to call it Brotherhood Munitions because it represents all of our warriors, all of those who have been willing to go out and fight, those families who have sacrificed one of their loved ones upon the altar of freedom. This truly is a brotherhood, and we all have to work together to make sure that sacrifice is never forgotten, that we will always take care of those who fought for it.
Absolutely. And so the website, brotherhoodmunitions.com, that easy?
That easy.
All right. Now, I don't know if we can talk about this or not. You tell me if I'm going in directions where we can't discuss, but you said something about you just finished making a movie?
I did. Yeah, absolutely. We can talk about it. So, and it's an amazing story. So a friend of mine 9/11 firefighter Tim Brown was actually one of the few firefighters that was in the towers when it started to fall. And he ducked into the Marriott, Tower 4, and survived. He's one of the very few that survived. It lit a fire in him to never allow something like the 9/11 attack to happen on American soil again. He wrote a script about an Islamic extremist attack that is being set up here on American soil based off something that really happened back into the 1850s, mass attack that occurred in India against the British rule back then. They called it the perfect day. So the idea behind this script is that there is a perfect day being planned here in America. And the messaging behind this movie, it doesn't matter what race, creed, color, religion you are. All of us as Americans have to stand up to fight against it. Local law enforcement can't do it alone. National law enforcement can't do it alone. One of the great things that I enjoyed about getting into it, the character I play as an ex-special operations member, he brought back his interpreter from Iraq who now works for the training facility. Muslim. Great Muslim, believes in this country, believes in the freedoms that built it. He helps thwart this attack. So it is truly the messaging. We close the movie with the quote that Thomas Jefferson once said, that eternal vigilance is the price that all citizens must pay to ensure that liberty and freedom remain. And that truly is what this movie is about. It is about that eternal vigilance. So it'll probably be out at the very end of the year or the beginning of next year, but I encourage everybody to watch it because it is... all of us have to remain vigilant.
That sounds awesome. I'm going to try to, can we put together a screening in Farmville, Virginia? Can we get you there if we put together like a screening there?
I will be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, the word that you mentioned there from the Thomas Jefferson quote, vigilance. I worry, Jason, that we as a nation are sort of taking our eye off the ball. You know, I see the things that the media obsesses about on cable television every day. I see the stories that are in the headlines. You know, we got a lot of people. We are constantly outraged, right? All the time. We've all got something to be outraged about. And a lot of things, I got to say, in the grand scheme of things, are pretty minor. And I worry that we're really being distracted. I mean, you talk about the threat that is out there. There are people with the desire and the intent and the means, frankly, to inflict great harm on people in this country. And they don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat. They don't care if you voted or you've never voted before. They don't care if you go to church every Sunday or you've never been to church in your life. They don't care because you are an American.
Yep.
That's what they care about. And they want to see you dead. They want to see your family in pain. And they're not going to go away just because we say, you know, please don't hurt us.
Exactly. I mean, there's this idea out there that if we educate them better or if we are nicer to them, or this crazy idea that, you know, I hear people, okay, we can hug them into peace. Well, I got to tell you, I saw it firsthand. I saw very evil men who are willing to kill their own family members to try and kill us. And they would do that a second right here on American soil. They wouldn't think twice about it. They will cut off your head and your children's head, and they would be happy about it. And that's why this threat is so great. And all Americans have to be aware. So many walk around in this fog where they have no idea what's going on around them. They walk around in this false sense of safety. And we are a safe nation. We are so much safer than others that are out there. But there are so many that take that safety for granted. They take that freedom for granted. And Israel is such an interesting place because in Israel, everyone takes ownership in the security of their country, with everybody being a part of the military and everybody recognizing that threat is around them at all times. So if you were to leave a package on the ground in the middle of a courtyard in Israel, everybody would immediately report it. Here in the United States, if we left that same package, it would probably never get reported. That is why it's so important that we've got to raise this level, that we have to get all Americans. We did an interview at a school when we were filming this movie and talked to some young kids, and I talked to them about both freedom, and I talked to them about American heroes, and I asked them, did they think they could be a hero? And, you know, some of them were like, well, I think so, and others said they weren't. And I said, well, do you realize that you would be a hero if you were walking down the street and you saw something that was out of the norm and you went and told your parents and they called the police and it turned out to be a viable threat? That would be one of the most heroic things you could do because it would stop something that otherwise wouldn't have been stopped because other people didn't care enough to pay attention that something was out of the norm. Could we have stopped 9/11 if all other Americans out there had been vigilant and said, this doesn't seem right?
Talking again with Jason Redman. And Jason, let's talk about your book as well that you have right here beside you, the Trident, the Forging and Reforging of a Navy SEAL Leader. Why should people read this book?
This book, at its heart and soul, is a book of leadership and overcoming adversity. I'm truly honored. Last year, the Navy actually selected as one of only 5 books on the official Navy reading list. It's required reading now for Navy division officers.
Wow.
The reason they picked it is because of the leadership journey. It is not your average book about a Navy SEAL. You know, I obviously was in combat, but the book is much more of a journey of leadership. From my younger years as a leader, where I made some pretty grievous mistakes and had to overcome them, to being severely wounded and coming to understand that you can lead in any situation. So this book can relate to anyone. I don't care if you're a businessman. I don't care if you're on a sports team. I don't care if you are a veteran. If you are an American, if you face adversity, which all of us face adversity in life, this book will relate to you. It'll make you better, and I'm blessed. It's a good story.
All right, last question for you. There are a lot of people who are watching this right now who I think would admire. They would say, "I admire you. I admire your courage. I admire your leadership." Who do you look up to? Who do you admire? Who are your mentors?
So one of the big mentors that I have, I write a lot about him in my book. He is a man that will remain unnamed because he is a man that never wanted the spotlight. And after an astounding military career, he faded back into the shadows. He lives by the saying, "The deed is all, not the glory." By far the best leader I ever worked for. Just a man that I think anyone would follow. There's no doubt in my mind. Highly respected up and down the chain of command. I always tell people if he called me up and said, "I'm taking down hell," I'd be like, "Roger that. I'll drive the propane truck." I mean, the other person that I always look back to as an example of leadership is George Washington. And, some people say, "Oh, well, that's trite. Anybody could say that." But really, if you study George Washington, he is such a great example of leadership. I mean, especially when he was leading through that dire winter at Valley Forge, at a time when we were in such harsh conditions, when he couldn't even clothe and take care of his military. Guys were dying, desertions were at an all-time high. His own friends were starting to question his leadership and whether they were making the right decisions. The Continental Congress was questioning him. And here's a man who stood by his conviction because he knew the outcome was absolutely worth it. And we would not have a country if it wasn't for that man standing by what he believed in.
Absolutely.
And he, in my opinion, is the greatest example of leadership. And, if I could be half of that someday, I would be pretty happy.
I think you're pretty close to
okay.
that. But but it's interesting because you talked about your own journey of leadership, and Washington had his own journey too. It's not like he sprang fully formed from his father's forehead and had all of this wisdom when he was a young soldier in what was the French and Indian War. He made some mistakes. He made some leadership mistakes that he learned from and carried that forward into the War of Independence.
And I think that's what's so critical for leaders. I think some people out there think that, leadership is something that you're suddenly, just one day you wake up and you're this great leader. I mean, it just doesn't happen that way. I'm mentoring a couple of people right now, and I tell them leadership is a journey. It is a journey that never ends. And you will fall, and you pick yourself back up, and you say, okay, how do I fix this? And there may even be some people who question the decisions you make. Well, that's part and parcel with being a leader. The only thing you can do is try and make the best decisions with the information you have and drive forward. And if you choose to be a leader, then lead always. Recognize that anything you do, positive or negative, will impact your reputation and credibility as a leader.
Jason Redman, I could talk with you all afternoon, man. Thank you so much. I know you got other stuff you got to do, but combatwoundedcoalition.org, also brotherhoodmunitions.com. And you are welcome back anytime, but you know that, right?
Hey, yeah, always. Thank you guys always for the support. And, hey, everybody out there, this is a huge year for us. I've heard some people saying, well, I'm just not going to vote. Don't do it. Voting is the single greatest right we have as a nation. Do not ever give up that right. Our future depends on it. Make sure you vote.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Jason Redman
Thanks,
with us
Cam.
here on NRA News Cam & Company. Always a pleasure.